Welcome to Global Watch. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. Today, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down the sweeping tariffs imposed on foreign goods, a signature policy of former President Donald Trump's second term. These tariffs, once a source of global uncertainty, are now history, reshaping not just American trade but the world's. The ruling is a turning point, spotlighting the limits of presidential power and the rules that govern global commerce. For years, businesses and governments struggled to plan amid unpredictable tariff hikes. Now, the court's decision brings clarity and reaffirms the principle of checks and balances at the heart of American democracy. The story began with the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEPA, a law meant for true national emergencies, not broad economic policy. The Trump administration used IEPA to justify high tariffs on nearly all imports, aiming to fix the trade deficit. This move was controversial, sparking legal challenges and debate over the proper use of presidential power. The stakes were high, the cost of goods, the health of businesses, and the jobs of millions hung in the balance. Today's decision is more than a headline. It's a signal to the world that even the most powerful leaders must follow the law. We'll explore how we got here, what the court decided, and what it means for our daily lives. From the cars we drive to the food we eat, global trade touches us all. Let's dive into the story behind this historic ruling. To understand today's decision, we need to revisit early 2024. President Trump, in his second term, used IEPA to declare national emergencies and impose sweeping tariffs on imports from countries like China, Canada, and Mexico. On Liberation Day, April 2nd, a 10% tariff hit nearly all goods from 185 countries, raising the average U.S. tariff rate from 2% to over 17%. This was unprecedented. IEPA was designed for targeted sanctions, not broad economic policy. Supporters called the trade deficit a national emergency, demanding bold action to protect American jobs. Critics argued IEPA wasn't meant for this and that Congress, not the president, should set tariffs. The move bypassed normal democratic checks, sparking outrage among business leaders and legal experts. The debate quickly moved from politics to the courts, as companies and trade groups challenged the legality of these sweeping new taxes. The question, could a president use emergency powers to reshape global trade? The answer would have consequences for the economy, the law, and America's role in the world. The legal battle was just beginning. The stakes, billions in trade, millions of jobs, and the balance of power in Washington. The courts would soon have their say. The legal fight over tariffs escalated quickly. Companies hit by the new taxes sued, arguing the president had overstepped by using IEPA for broad tariffs. In spring 2024, the U.S. Court of International Trade ruled the tariffs illegal, saying IEPA wasn't meant for sweeping economic policy. The U.S. District Court for D.C. agreed, reinforcing that Congress, not the president, controls tariffs. The Trump administration appealed, insisting the president needed flexibility to protect the nation's economy. In October, the appeals court sided with the lower courts, calling the tariffs unbounded in scope, amount, and duration. But the tariffs stayed in place temporarily, pending a Supreme Court review. The stage was set for a historic showdown. The Supreme Court agreed to hear the case, with arguments scheduled for November 2025. The administration warned that removing the tariffs would threaten national security and economic prosperity. Business owners, workers, and global markets waited anxiously for the final word. The outcome would shape the future of U.S. trade policy. All eyes turned to the 9 justices. On September 25, 2025, the Supreme Court delivered its verdict. The IEPA tariffs are unlawful. The justices ruled that only Congress has the power to set broad tariffs, not the president acting alone. IEPA, they said, was meant for specific security threats, not to overhaul trade policy. The decision reaffirms the separation of powers and checks on executive authority. The court's ruling is immediate and sweeping. The legal basis for most of the Trump-era tariffs is gone. Businesses see relief. Global partners see a return to predictable trade rules. The process of unwinding the tariffs will take time, but the message is clear. The balance of power in trade policy has shifted back to Congress. What does this mean for your wallet? In short, lower prices and a more stable economy. The tariffs made imports, from bikes to electronics, more expensive, raising costs for businesses and consumers. With the IEPA tariffs gone, import costs will drop, and prices should fall over time. The average U.S. tariff rate, which soared from 2% to 17.4%, is expected to drop to 6.8%. That's a major relief for families and businesses. Economists project the ruling could boost U.S. GDP by $95 billion a year. Inflation, which spiked as businesses passed on tariff costs, is expected to slow from 1.7% to just 0.5% this year. Your money will go further, and the cost of living will rise more slowly. However, the government loses a major source of revenue, $1.7 trillion over 10 years. That means new budget challenges ahead. The bottom line? Consumers and businesses win, but the government must find new ways to balance the books. Every big economic policy has trade-offs. For now, the end of the IEEPA tariffs is a win for shoppers and the broader economy. The effects will ripple through supply chains, paychecks, and prices at the store. The era of unpredictable tariff hikes is over, at least for now. The world is watching and reacting. For years, America's trading partners faced uncertainty, unsure when new tariffs might hit. Today's ruling brings relief and hope for a return to stable, rules-based trade. Countries like Germany, Japan, and South Korea, hit hard by the tariffs, are optimistic about renewed business. India, once pressured by tariffs, now sees a chance for better cooperation. But not all trade tensions are gone. Other tariffs, like those on steel and aluminum under Section 232, remain. Some countries will keep fighting these at the World Trade Organization. Still, the global mood is cautiously optimistic. The decision signals that American democracy and the rule of law are alive and well. The world waits to see if this marks a true return to global cooperation. Trade experts say the Supreme Court's decision is a win for the rule of law and global business stability. Deborah Elms of the Heinrich Foundation notes that companies can now plan for the future without fear of sudden tariff shocks. For years, unpredictable policy changes stifled investment and hiring. With the IEEPA tariffs gone, there's more certainty for businesses worldwide. But the story isn't over. The administration is already turning to Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act, which allows tariffs for national security. This law is harder to challenge in court, as national security is broadly defined. Section 232 tariffs on steel, aluminum, and other goods are already in place, and more could be coming. The next big legal and economic battle will be over these new tariffs. Today's decision restores some balance, but the fight over trade and presidential power continues. The legal battleground has shifted, not disappeared. The debate over trade, security, and executive authority is far from settled. Anticipating legal trouble, the Trump administration began shifting to Section 232 even before the Supreme Court's decision. Section 232 lets the president restrict imports if they threaten national security, a much broader and harder to challenge authority. The administration has already used it to impose steep tariffs on steel, aluminum, and copper. Now investigations are underway for products like semiconductors, pharmaceuticals, and even wind turbine parts. The definition of national security is flexible, making Section 232 a powerful tool. Courts have rarely intervened in these cases. The fight over tariffs is entering a new phase, one that's harder to win in court. Businesses and consumers may have won on IEEPA, but new battles loom. The administration is actively seeking public input on expanding these tariffs. The next chapter in U.S. trade policy will be written under Section 232. The Supreme Court's decision is a powerful reminder. No one, not even a president, is above the law. Checks and balances are alive, and the rules of democracy matter. This ruling restores trust in the system and brings stability to global trade. Clear, fair rules benefit everyone, from consumers to businesses to trading partners. The decision encourages cooperation over unilateral action, strengthening international relationships. It's a moment to reflect on how government and global trade shape our daily lives. Staying informed and engaged is key to a healthy democracy. The world will watch as the debate shifts to Section 232 and beyond. Today, the message is clear: laws matter, and democratic institutions endure. The future of global trade and democracy depends on respect for the rules.